Hello everybody and welcome back. I have another account for you tonight and it comes from Mike's Werewolf Journals. I think we're on number 12 now, so I'll get started. The area is the Howwe Forest near Cross Key, Wales, and the weather was clear, dry with scattered cloud cover. The temperature was 12.5 degrees, 11 hours to 1300 hours. Today's visit will be to the Howwe Forest near Cross Keys in Wales. I left Reading at around 9:15 and arrived in Cross Keys at 10:45. I started walking up the road towards the forest at 10:50 a.m. and after a good 5 minutes I reached the first public footpath that leads into the forest, which led me up a 70-metre or more incline to the top of a very steep slope. When I reached the top, I sat down for a cup of coffee and some sandwiches on a tree stump. And after about 15 to 20 minutes, the birds stopped singing and sure enough, the whole area went quiet. And at this point, I had a strong urge to keep looking to my right. This is when I heard a very deep-throated growl that came from my left, which had me turning left quickly and almost jumping with fright, trying to see where that growl had come from. I repeated to myself the mantra of, I'm only here to look, observe and research. I'm not here to hurt or steal food. I kept looking in the direction of the growl, and I think I saw the side of a canine-looking head peering around a tree looking at me, but I couldn't be sure. I have taken some photos. I left behind a ham sandwich and a sausage roll as a peace offering, just in case, and I decided to move on along the footpath to where my wife and I had been earlier in the year, back in February. After some time, I reached an area which had some fallen trees arranged in a large rectangular enclosure of sorts. The trees had been placed end to end with an opening for something of which I was not sure to enter. Moving further along, I came to the end of this stretch of the forest where it was divided by a wire fence, but something had decided to push at least 4 trees over this fence, flattening and destroying it and allowing easy passage in between the next section of the forest and the one I was standing in. After walking around this area for several minutes, I decided to call it a day and walk back to the car. Before I started out, I did my usual mantra of, I'm here not to harm or to hurt you in any way. And I've recently started doing a new mantra of, I'm here and I've come in friendship, so if you want to find me, come along. Now when I do this, give it 15 to 20 minutes, and it seems to me that they will come along and find you. How and why they can do this, I have no idea. Area, Hampstead, Norreys Wood. Weather's dry but overcast. Temperature was 5.5 degrees, and it started at 12:10 and ended at 13:05. Today I decided to search a new area of a stretch of wood that runs parallel with the M4 motorway. The area is called Hampstead, Norreys Wood, not the actual village of the same name. I've seen a structure of sorts when I drove back from South Wales along the M4, so I thought I'd make a point of interest and go and have a look at this structure. It took me about 50 minutes to find the wood and a place to park, and I got set up and I went off on my walk and I walked into the wood, and almost straight away I noticed this location was a place of some sort of activity. Not sure which type of cryptid had made the signs, but whatever it was had bent over trees. There was den-like structures and something I'd never seen before. Trees placed on the ground at angles to each other, or placed along the side of each other with ferns growing over these tree trunks, or actually placed on top, literally covering the whole area. This happened in at least 2 locations in the wood, but I'm not sure if this is natural or deliberate. This kind of feature actually stood out and impressed me. Nunny Green. After spending nearly an hour in Hampstead, Norreys Wood, I drove over to Nunny Green and decided to search an area I'd not been to since December 2016. And it was here I actually got a photo of what looks to me like a werewolf sticking a part of its head out the top of a tree. This thing was inside a den. When I got there, the same den was still very much intact, and it looked as though it was still in use. I also found a new structure as well. But the big find of the day was some prints that were about a size 14. I'm a size 11, and the prints had a stride of about 46 inches between them. I also found a big pile of natural waste. The prints looked fresh, but I looked around hoping to get a look of any creature that was about or that had made them, but alas, I couldn't see or find the culprit in question. Overall, it was a good day, and it seems like my furry friends are back, but are more elusive than ever. Isn't that always the way, unfortunately? Weather clear and sunny, temperature 4 degrees, start 6:05 hours in the morning till 7:20. Some activity in what I used to call Zone 2, the training area. I think it might be wildmen and not the usual suspects. There's a lot of tree sign and saw 3 deer, but I also saw something else of which I'm not sure. Firstly, I heard some sounds to my left, and this was when I saw the deer, so I didn't think anything of it. But a few minutes later, there was a sound of something moving to my left, and it wasn't deer, so I stopped. I knelt down, and about 50 metres to the front of me was a dark shape, using the cover of the tree and shadow cast by the canopy of the tree to hide itself. The shape was a lot darker than the tree, but I couldn't quite make it out. So I decided to move towards it, during which time it moved off quickly to the right and disappeared back into the cover. I walked over to the area where it had been, but I couldn't see a trail of where it had retreated to. During the whole time, the birds kept singing, which reassured me, so maybe it was a wild man and not our usual friends. Then today I visited the rear section of Nollywood, Zone 2. This is where I had seen the figure and shape from 18th of May. Well, today's visit had been a big surprise for me. Trees had just been piled on top of one another, almost like a balancing act. Really quite bizarre, and it was quite a sight to see. I found 2 dens, and at least one of these dens was in current use. I did my usual sit down and waited 15 or 20 minutes, and the birds slowly went quiet, and sure enough, I started to have the feeling of being watched from the front and to my left. Normally I feel nervous. I have a slight case of the jitters, but today I felt safe. Not a false sense of safety, but really safe. Not sure why. I sat down for a good 40 minutes or so, but after a while I decided it was time for home. Overall, it was a very good afternoon. Another section of Nollywood. It's a different day. Its temperature's 15.5, and it's 14:55 hours till 16:10. I returned to the same area in Nollywood with the den, of which I'm pretty sure now is still in use, and this time I had a strong feeling something was home. I took some photos and I had a good look around for several minutes. I decided to sit down and have some coffee and a sausage roll and try my new working practice of wait and see. And after some time, off to my front right, about 100 metres, something black was in the bushes, using a tree as cover, and it was behind it. I got my small pocket binoculars out and I tried to see if anything was hiding in the bushes. Well, with hands shaking, I could see something, but I didn't want to get any closer. Until next time, I will bring you up to date with the rest of this. Good night.